Welcome back, people, to Nelly's TV. And like we have always said, in this channel, we try to make people use their senses to reason properly. And having said that, I would like to tell you that if you are an African youth, if you are an African youth and you still believe everything that comes out of the Western media, then you are under manipulation. If you are an African youth and you still swallow hook, line, and sinker everything that these Western politicians say as if it is the standard or truth, you are seriously under a very huge manipulation. It is time we begin to use our senses and reason and do things our own way and not continue to depend on the white man, and not continue to depend on the West for whatever we try to do. I'm going to show us a few things that will help enlighten our brains, sensitize us to know where we are placed as Africans on the scheme of affairs in this world. So we're going to be going one after the other, right? Number one, let's see this. Let's see this. This is an exposition made by a very intelligent African, and I would like you to listen.
Nigeria was the third largest oil producing nation in the world. Today, Nigeria does not own its own oil reserves, which is still the third largest in the world, but BP and Shell and Exxon owns all the rights of the oil in Nigeria.
Good. So what is he trying to say? Nigeria owns the wealth, but ordinary companies from this Western world are the ones controlling the wealth of Nigeria. You talk about Shell BP, you talk about ExxonMobil, you talk about Chevron and the rest of them. They are the ones dictating for Nigeria how to get their product, how to exploit their products, and how to sell them, how much to sell them, and how much to make. So whatever they tell Nigeria that's what they have made is what Nigeria makes. So who owns the resources in the real sense? Listen.
They take the oil out of it, and
they take the oil out of Nigeria and then sell it back to Nigeria.
The IMF and the World Bank. These are the Kafirs we're dealing with.
So who are the ones doing these things? It is the IMF and the World Bank. But what are we being told about IMF and World Bank? We are told that they help countries grow economically, isn't it? But they are the ones actually impoverishing countries by telling them how to exploit their resources and how to sell it in the international market, how much to sell it as well. They peg the prices for countries.
Second, making the dollar, whether it is the Australian dollar or the French dollar, or we call them dollars, but we know they call them different currencies, making the currency in the West prevalent as a source of value and eliminating the gold.
Good. Before now, Africans were selling their products based on gold, silver, and other mineral resources. But this time around, what did they do? Because they saw that they don't have all these mineral resources like gold. So they introduced the dollar and said, oh no, we can't continue to use gold. Let's begin to use currency so that when you sell your product, you get the currency and all that and all that. And now we depend on dollar. And the so-called colonialists who came earlier stole our resources, and they are still stealing them and taking them to their country. For instance, in Britain now, Britain has one of the largest, if not the largest, gold bank in the whole world. But Britain doesn't have a single gold mine. Where did they get all this gold? They got them from Africa. They got them from Ghana. They got them from even India as well, and several other African countries. And they are packing them in their country. Is that not stealing? So they are impoverishing you of your mineral resources, and giving you pieces of paper as a means of exchange. That is that is impoverishment of the mentality of human beings. And we have to come out of that nonsense. The problem here is that our leaders, our so-called leaders, are the ones selling us this cheap to these white people, to these Western politicians and businessmen. So it is horrible and we can't continue like that. I'm going to show us another video and we will continue our analysis from there, right? So look at this one right now. You see, this was a seminar where they were talking about debts, national debts of countries and all that, everything that has to do with it. And somebody asked a question. We're going to be listening to the question.
I have a question. What's the difference between the U.S. debt and the debt that African nations own? Because the U.S. debt doesn't keep the U.S. from being one of the leading powers of the world, but then African nations can't make it because of that debt that is strangling them.
Good. So when an African country is owing, the debt is strangling it. But US and other developed countries also owe, but their debts don't strangle them. They still remain very economically powerful. Listen to the answer.
Okay. The first question is a very important question. What makes African and third world debt different from the American debt? Number one, America is never going to pay its debts. It doesn't have to. Its debts.
Did you hear that? America is not going to pay her debt. It doesn't have to. But how do they come out of their debt? How does it go? Listen.
Are in its own currency. We can simply print it. The African debt is not in its currency. The African debt is in US dollars.
Good. There we go. So US is owing. Why will US struggle to pay? It is very simple. They can just break their currency and pay the debt. But when an African country owes, it is going to be struggling to make US dollars in order to use the dollars to pay. You get the joke here? So you see, you have the resources, but they make you to use your resources and exchange for their dollar, and then they make you to borrow in dollars so that those resources, the money you have made as a result of your resources, you pay it back to them as a debt you are paying back. My goodness. Listen.
Africa has to earn the US dollars, and the only way it can earn the US dollars is not to be assassinated for growing its own food.
Good. You see, there is also the danger of losing your life if you try to grow your own food, because they don't want you to grow your own food. They want you to depend on them for your food. Listen up.
And becoming independent and doing something that the United States does not like. The principle underlying the foundation of the World Bank, the International Bank for IBRD, research, the World Bank, is that no country should grow its own food.
Are you getting it? So World Bank actually has a hidden agenda that no country should grow its own food, and it is mostly implemented in Africa. So you depend on wherever they want you to depend in order to get your food. So what do they expect Africans to do? You will hear it. They want Africa to grow only food crops that they can sell to America, Britain, other European countries, and get foreign currency. Okay, after getting the foreign currency, then you go back to them and buy you the food that you will consume in your country. Is that not madness? Listen.
Africa and the third world should only grow export crops. In order to have an oversupply of cocoa and other tropical raw materials, to keep down the price, they must buy their grain from the United States.
Are you getting it? So they sell the products that the United States and other developed countries want what they need to grow their
or
industry,
Europe.
and after selling them, then they buy their own food from those countries. That is arrant madness.
So that if they do something that we don't like, we can do what America tried to do to China in the
You see to that? If they do something that we don't like, we can do to them what America did to China. So that means their eyes are on you to know whether you want to break out of that poverty chain they have put you into. Are you getting the message now? Listen up.
60s. We can sanction them. We can say, we're going to starve you. We're going to not export any grain to you. So owing their foreign debt in dollars means that they have to somehow sell something that the United States wants, not what they want. I think the most evil organizations in the world today are the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund.
Good. Are you getting it? The two most evil organizations in the world today are the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. And what is the International Monetary Fund? The IMF, as we heard in this other earlier video. Are you following? Now it's not me that is saying, it's a white man that is also saying it here. So, people, what is actually going on? We are going to see another one, and we will begin to open our brain probably from there. If you're an African youth, begin now to open your brain and reason differently from the way our politicians and leaders reason. They reason very negatively and myopically. They reason like naive people that don't have any sense of reasoning at all. We shouldn't continue that way, otherwise our future is in a very big danger. Listen to this other one. Watch and listen. This is another seminar where a white man actually also made some expose about the trouble that African countries are into. Listen up.
Sub-Saharan Africa has been fundamental to the global prosperity of the advanced countries. And Africa had a role to play. It has a role as a raw material producer.
Good. So countries want to develop, and Africa has a role to play as a raw material producer. So they only see you as a source of their raw materials, not as a human being, not as anything useful. They only need your products. They only need your natural resources. Wake up and begin to use your head to reason, and don't continue to believe everything you hear from these people when they come with their sugar-coated mouth and begin to tell you, hey, we are here to help Africa. We are here to give you financial aid. We are here to give you some food. We are here to help you, give you some medicine. It is to use the other hand and grab as much resources as possible from your land. They give you a token and they use the other hand to grab more than what they have given you, more than 1,000 times what they have given you. This is evil. Listen up.
We will not allow Sub-Saharan Africa to escape that.
Good.
Okay, we do everything to keep Sub-Saharan Africa where it is.
We do everything to keep Sub-Saharan Africa where it is, also impoverished. Listen.
Also impoverished.
Also
it's absolutely vital for the prosperity of everyone else. So let's get clear about that. Okay, and this means all the economic structures, all the global institutions, and the economics we teach everyone is all designed to keep Africa exactly where it is.
Good. So what did they do? They brought lessons in economics, in politics, and whatever, and teach you and say they brought education. But what are they actually doing? They are teaching you things that will keep keeping you in that impoverished condition. Listen up.
And whether it is Europe or US or now China, it's always the same.
It's always the same. No matter where they come from, they have the same agenda because they meet somewhere and agree on this thing before coming.
We need Africa to be impoverished.
We need Africa to be impoverished. I'm not the one saying it, they are saying it themselves. So when they come with something that looks like gift, something that looks like a plan, every time they tell you they are entering into bilateral agreement, watch it carefully. They are there to cheat you and get as much resources from you as possible. And our leaders have been falling to this cheap deceit because of their greed. Because they will come and promise our leaders, hey, you see, if we go into this alliance, we will be giving you some percentage. And that percentage will only end in the pocket of this leader, and the rest of the citizens will be suffering. But when they get these material resources from Africa and go to their country, they share the product, what do I call it? They share the profit of it evenly among their citizens. So while they are busy building societal wealth, they are encouraging our leaders, our rulers, our politicians to acquire private or personal wealth. So one man will be richer than the country. But in their country, they don't enrich themselves individually like that. They make their wealth to go around their citizens. And that is why they are evenly comfortable. But in Africa, you see one man extremely rich and thousands or millions very poor living around the rich man. That is evil. And this is a calculated plan they are executing on us. Listen up.
Because we need those raw materials and we need them dirt cheap. Okay, so that's the message.
We need those raw materials and we need them dead cheap. Cheap. They need them cheap from you. Listen.
It doesn't mean to say that there's nothing Africans can do. Of course there is. This is what it's about. Because if Africa does do something different, I assure you living standards of all those in Europe and North America and Asia is going to fall.
Did you hear that? It's not that there is nothing Africans can do. Africans can do something. But the fear here is that if they do something differently, the living standard of those in Europe and Africa and America, Europe and America, their living standard is going to fall. The economy will collapse. Jacques Chirac was the president of France. He was the first person that made this statement that if France leaves Africa, that is, if Africa gets out of the hook, evil hook of France, France will collapse economically. This man is repeating it here. You see? So they keep keeping you under very terrible conditions and sapping your resources in order to develop their country so that you continue to suffer. Are you getting it now? No wonder why they always go after African countries where the rulers try to do the right thing for the people. I'm going to share these things with you as time goes on, but let's continue watching the video.
Okay? And that is a big price to pay. I assure you that the West is not going to allow that without a big fight.
Good. So if any African country tries to do the right thing, the West is not going to allow that to happen without a big fight. Do you now see why they are busy eliminating every African leader that dares to do the right thing? Can you now begin to reason? First, I don't know, I can't say it is first, but let me mention a few of them. For instance, we know about Patrice Lumumba of the Democratic Republic of Congo today. They dealt with the man, they kidnapped him and cut him into pieces and dissolved his body in acid and took his teeth to Belgium and denied everything of it. But it's recently that they came out to confess that they did it. They brought back the teeth. So what are Congo people going to do with the teeth of their leader? Why did they do that? Because Patrice Lumumba wanted a good life for his people and he was doing it. Okay? They went ahead in the current day Burkina Faso, when it was called Upper Volta, one of those useless names they gave to African countries then. Thomas Ankara was the leader then, a very young leader, and began to change things to make things good for his people. What did they do? They used his own very close security guard and friend to eliminate him. Of recent, we know about Muammar Gaddafi. Muammar Gaddafi wanted a good life for his people and brought about a lot of economic and social services that made the people very comfortable. Libya was one of the best economies in the whole world. What did they do? They labeled him all manner of allegations and eliminated him. Ever since they eliminated Libya in the guise that they came to fight terrorism, how good is Libya today? Libya is one of the countries that have the highest number of terrorist organizations in Africa today. So what was the achievement? They didn't achieve anything in the interest of Libyans, but in the interest of themselves. And I tell you today, go and find out, it is America that is now controlling the oil of Libya. That was their business. That was their aim. And now what is going on? They are now focusing their attention on Ibrahim Traore, the current president of Burkina Faso, leveling all manner of accusations against him. We are going to continue this video in the next part because this one is getting too long. So thank you very much for watching so far, and I will see you in the part 2 of this video.